Today's video is all around So welcome back. Slightly different video today. I'm going to talk about all of the different gadgets for navigation. So probably over the last, I would say 2 years, I have been messing about with different types of tech for navigation, to follow routes, how to plan them, what do I really need. I've gone from an iPad Mini 3 to a Garmin Inreach. I've gone from an iPad Mini 6 with a SIM card, so I don't have to worry about my Inreach, to finally going to a Garmin Tread. So all of that tech, I'm trying to sort of scale it down so I have less tech on my dashboard to be able to give me what I need. So when I had an iPad Mini, on there I had GaiaGPS, and so pre-iPad Mini 6 without a SIM card in it, I had to Bluetooth it to my Garmin Inreach, which gave me GPS connectivity. So that's 2 devices hooked up to do that. The other thing is I use my iPhone with wikilocks. So because wikilocks won't go into landscape mode, why wikilocks? Please, it must be the biggest request that people have. Because we run that app, or try and run that app with an iPad Mini, we can't put it into landscape mode. It has to go into portrait mode, which just makes it redundant. So I've ended up with a whole mishmash of different mapping solutions, and my phone is just not big enough to be able to monitor the routes. Now you can turn on notifications when you miss a route and when you're back on the route, when you follow a trail with wikilocks, but it's not ideal because you're still dealing with a relatively small screen. So over the last couple of years I've been playing around with what actually works. In the Defender I just had wikilocks because I sat closer to the phone, which was up on the dash, and I could follow it. And all the trails that I used to record, I used to download them onto my iPad Mini and the GPX files, and then at least I'd have a record of them. It's already beginning to sound complex and probably too overcomplicated. So a couple of weeks ago I was rooting around on YouTube and I saw that Garmin had gone from their Overlander product, picture up here, which a lot of people had some negative ideas. I think this was version 1, and I'm always loath to get version 1 of any sort of product. All of a sudden they've come up with this Overlander version 2, which is called the Tread. You can get it in 3 options. There is one for more of the quad side-by-side community, which is a 5-inch screen. There's an Overlander version, which is in both an 8 and a 10-inch. So I reached out to Garmin and said, hey, going on a trip in September, trying to consolidate all of my tech and my navigation, could I have one? The answer was yes. So I've got a loaner Garmin Tread for a period of time, and I'm going to start figuring out whether that is the one single device that can go on my dash that will replace everything else. So the one thing about the Tread is it has a Inreach. So the great thing about the Tread is it has Inreach built in. Now I already have the base subscription to run my Garmin Inreach Mini. That can now go because I've transferred my Inreach subscription, which is the base model, onto my Tread. So already that can go. I've been playing around with the maps, and the maps that I have, that I've got stored away either on wikilocks or on Gaia, are all GPX files. So you can move those. That's the cross-format transfer mechanism. I can offload those and then load them back into the Tread app, which syncs it down to my Tread device. So I've been playing around with that for the last couple of days. So far, so good. I have been using the Tread on the front of the dash, and because I've got various 67 design mounts, I've managed to figure out how to get a 67 designs, what they call an amps bracket, to replace this 1.5-inch ball that goes onto a suction cup on the front of the windscreen, which comes with the Tread. So I'll show you what that looks like. But I've got rid of all of that and I'm back down to my 67 designs 20mm balls and arms. Got it connected up at the moment and ran it for the weekend. When it arrived quickly on Friday, I sort of escaped out the door, got it all set up, powered it up. It's all sort of set up and it's ready to go, and I'll show you how it looks on the dashboard. So I'm going to play around with it for the next couple of weeks. I do like the detail on it. I do like the 8-inch screen. Now, those of you that have been following with the channel know that I also have a Navi Plus. Now, that's good for doing Google Maps, but I will say that the detail in the Garmin is far better than Google. So Google Maps, I think it's like the go-to for all of us. But I found that the detail on the tread and the turn-by-turn is better than Google. So I'm going to still play with it and see how that goes, but I'll give you a walk around of what it looks like. So this is the tread, and the way I've got it connected is basically through double arms and double connected on the back here with my 67 Designs arms. I've got it sitting now so it rests on this plastic vent trim. It doesn't move that much. I haven't taken it off-road, but I'm pretty sure it's good here. I had to put it this far back to be able to get the antenna. This is the Inreach antenna, but it's also the built-in GPS antenna. And I had it sitting about here. But I think this is the best place for it, because now what it allows me to do is a better rake and an angle on the windscreen for the antenna to get the GPS lock. And I believe it's because it couldn't acquire 3 satellites to position itself, and so it just froze until it could do that. So anyway, that's where it's going to sit. I've got a couple of other 67 Designs arms. I've got a Nano. I've got I think this one is a medium. I'm going to play around with it to be able to get it to sit exactly where I want it to sit. Now, it does sit on a mag mount, so all you do is pull it, and that is the mount. Now, on the back of here, I've got an amps plate, and the amps plate fits to a 20mm ball, which allows the 67 Designs arms to fit. Now, this is the original ball mount. This is a 1.5-inch ball on an amps plate. This is a monster. And hopefully you can see that if you compare the 1.5-inch ball mount that goes on the back of the factory one plus the 20mm ball mount. What's that, 10 times bigger? Why does it have it that big, which goes on the back of here? Is because it comes with this, and this monster will go on here with that ball mount. Now, I don't want this up against my windscreen. That's quite the only reason why. I just don't want that up here where that is. And I believe that this solution for me is better. But anyway, it comes with a 1.5-inch ball mount, which I think Ram have got something that's compatible to that. And then it comes with this monster, this suction cup monster, that will fit the tread up here against your windscreen, but that's not for me. So this is for the iPad mini. As you can see, it's about the similar size, although the screen for the tread down there is an 8-inch, and my iPad mini I think is 6 or 7 maybe. Anyway, this is now redundant. I don't need that. And now what it allows me to do is to clean up all of this. So I've got a couple of ball mounts up here. I might move this over, I don't know just yet, but now I can have just the tread and then have another arm that goes off here, and then I can put my GoPro that points either that way or that way at me when I drive. The only thing I've got to do now with the tread is this cable goes to a 12-volt connection, and what I've just got to do now is just figure out how to route this. What I might do is I might just drill a quick hole into the speaker cable, and then I can run the cable from the back of the dash and then just work my way up and then come out here, and then it will just connect it in. So it's got a quick fit connector in here as well, so you can take this off. But for now, like I said, I only got this a couple of days ago. It's just going to loosely sit here. But I don't like this sort of, cables running down my dash, so I'll clean all that up. So that should clean up all of that. And like I said, I can now get rid of my Inreach. I don't need an iPad mini. That's 2 devices into one. And I think this one will be able to provide everything that I need going forward. And it's really simple to just drop it on, just hold it up, and it pops straight into the mag mount. There is a clip on here. So what you can do there is just push that down and it locks it in. But again, just pull it, it comes away. So I think I'm now at the situation where I can just use the Tread. I can get rid of my iPad mini. I can get rid of my Garmin Inreach mini and just use one device. I don't even think I need to use wikilocks anymore, because I believe all of the trails that I want to do I can preload on the Tread, and the Tread will do turn-by-turn navigation, which wikilocks doesn't do. Now it does give you alerts, it does sort of send you this strange squeaking sound when you go off track and when you go on track. But if you've got that on mute mode, you don't see it. So I've learned my lesson with that I don't leave my phone on mute mode to do that. Now so far, by using the Tread for just a weekend, there's one thing that I don't like about it, is there's no full on. If you've got it powered up, and I've got it powered up to there's a 12 volt sort of cigarette lighter adapter to it. You can run it through USB-C. I need to sort all the wiring out to make sure it's fully powered. But if it's powered up and it's got continuous power and you've got the screen on, it will automatically turn itself off after 30 minutes of non-activity, which to me doesn't make sense, because if you're using it as a navigation device, you want it on all the time. Now you can set it on for sort of like 1 minute on all these different increments, but come on Garmin, if we're going to use it for long distance travel, especially for overlanding, you don't want the thing turning itself off after 30 minutes. It just doesn't make sense. So you've got to look at an option to be able to leave the thing on if we've got it plugged in and powered up. Now the battery life on it, I've tested it. So I powered the thing up when I first got it. It seems okay. So if you turn the brightness down to about 50%, you can get 6 hours out of the battery. What I figured out is if you get a full battery and then plug it into your 12 volt socket, it just about trickle charges what's going on with what the information or the screen's being powered up. It just about keeps up with that. Sorry, there's tractors going up and down the road. It just about keeps up with the power draw to put the power back in, if that makes sense. So my biggest gripe I've got at the moment is there's no way of setting it more than 30 minutes for it to auto power off. Now the other thing I think you just have to remind yourself to do is just keep touching the screen every 30 minutes or something to make sure that it just stays powered on. But come on Garmin, we need the ability to keep these things on all the time, especially if we've got it powered into a 12 volt socket. That doesn't make sense when it keeps powering itself off, and it's just annoying that it does. The other thing I've also noticed is it's really not good at doing rerouting. There's different modes you can set up, which is sort of fast road, and then it goes down to what they call adventurous road. When I first set it up, when you set up the profile for the car, I obviously set it up in adventurous mode, and it will just take you absolutely everywhere, bypassing motorways and things like that. So that's one thing to be aware of, and I can't figure out how to change it back. So trying to get it to reroute to go to the optimal distance, especially if you're on the road, just keeps taking you every sort of back road it possibly can, because it's in this adventurous mode and not in fast road mode. Whereas Google just automatically point to point, quickest way, and it will set it up for you and just let it go. I've also noticed that the miles are out slightly. Now I don't know if that's because you're pulling the signal from satellites, or you're pulling the signal from the cell tower or the mobile tower on Google Maps off my phone. I'm not sure, but they seem to be off. I've got larger tires on this. It's slightly bigger in diameter. Everybody keeps saying your mileage is going to be out on the Speedo. My GPS on the Tread is almost 100% on. It might be like half a mile off, but it's pretty much accurate. And if I'm doing 70 on the Speedo, the GPS says 70. So this is the Garmin Tread. This is the 8-inch version. You can get it in a 10. It's got inbuilt Inreach in it. So if you're familiar with Garmin, there is something called Inreach, which works on satellites. It provides a method that if you're in trouble, it will send SOS messages, it will send standard text messages to anybody that's following you in case you get into trouble. So Inreach is built into this device, and you access it by taking that button up and pressing the SOS device. Now, I think there's a charge. If you do run into trouble and you hit the button, there is a charge, but this will send the coordinates out for somebody to come and rescue you. Now, it's more of an insurance device than actually using this all the time. But you can put things like standard text messages that can be sent over the satellite network to tell people if you don't have cell coverage, mobile coverage, that you're in where you need to be. You can have standard messages set up to a whole series of contacts. I'll go into more detail of the functions on this tool. A couple of other things, you might be able to see this. It has the ability to do sort of the barometer, calibration on the vehicle. You can also set up a profile for the size of the vehicle as well. Now this is supposed to be something like stop you from going down trails that are too high or too wide. We'll see how that goes, but that's inside of here in the vehicle. So I've set the L322 up with its width and its height. We'll see whether it actually turns around and says you cannot go down there. So it shows altitude, barometer, and then compass. You can also calibrate the pitch and roll. So hopefully you can see that. It's moving quite well. But anyway, I've only just started playing around with this tool. The maps are really detailed. May not come up in detail, but because I don't have a GPS device, but the maps are really detailed, and I do like the level of detail you have in there. And again, it's pinch, pull, just the same as you would normally have on any sort of common device that we have today. Now, comparing this to the iPad mini, they're roughly about the same size screen to screen, but holding them up, clearly you can see that the iPad is a lot smaller. Now this obviously has got the built-in mount, and as you can see in the video before, this has got a mag mount that's attached to the dash. You just hold this up and it clips on, and there is a clip at the top that keeps this device held in place. But it is significantly wider. As I mentioned, you can put an SD card in there. It's got a USB-C in there as well. But I do love this. I like the way that the screen looks. It's much more clearer than running something like this. So very, very quickly, if you notice, this is the same map. This is Google compared to the detail you get here. It's far more detailed on this map. Now, I think you can control the level of detail that you have on the map, but this is Google Maps on the iPad mini. I clearly am beginning to like this better than I like the iPad running Google Maps, but we'll see how it goes. Now this device is a lot bigger. It's definitely a lot thicker, but it has the built-in mount, as I mentioned before. The iPad mini clearly has no mount. You would have to figure out a mount, and it will probably, when you get a mount on the side of it, will be about the same. But anyway, we'll see how we'll go with that. But at the moment, I'm liking this. But I do know that I've now eliminated at least using this, just with this, and then I don't need to worry about carrying my Inreach mini. So there's a picture up here of what it would look like with my iPad, and then my Inreach mini on the dash, and you can see it begins to look cluttered. Having one device up there, to me, looks like it was simplified. So this is just a walkthrough of the comparisons of the mini to the Tread. I'll walk you through how you get wikilocks trails onto the Tread, and you can see what that looks like. So if you go into the apps and you go to Adventure and type in tracks, you begin to see all of my trails. So these trails all come from wikilocks being transferred to a GPX file into the Tread app. And these will then display here, and then you can just click on them, hit go. It's going to show you whether it's start to finish. You can also reverse the routes, which you can do in wikilocks, but this actually gives you an option from the start whether you want to reverse it. Now clearly, if I put this in here, you can see the miles away from the starts of these trails. There's no point, because it's just going to put the route to where it needs to go to get to the start of that trail. But this is how all of these trails will render themselves. So it's possible to take wikilocks, take the trails, GPX, into the Tread app, sync the Tread app with the Tread, and then all of your GPX files are available there. So I hope this was useful. I'm going to go and play with this for a couple more weeks, and then I'll give you more of an in-depth view of what the Tread looks like to work with on the dash, what the maps look like, the where to function, all of that stuff that's built into this. There's probably an awful lot of stuff in here that I've not really looked at this point in time. But anyway, this is part one. Part two coming soon with an in-depth view of what the Tread looks like. Cheers.